Hello viewers, I'm your host Uzma Jafri with another episode of South Asia Focus. Let's begin the show. Just 1 week into Afghan politics and things have taken an unbelievable turn. The brute bunch of Taliban has seized control of the capital Kabul, and yes, they are all set to rule the country once again after a 2-decade gap since 2001, when US-led forces toppled their barbaric rule in wake of 9/11 attacks. And now the Taliban, which has grabbed the power through the barrel of the gun, are trying to sell a lie that their means of transition will be peaceful. And this is when a number of disturbing visuals of desperate Afghans trying to flee the country have already shaken one and all around the world.
The images of desperate, helpless Afghans clinging on to the wheels and wings of an aircraft to escape what they call a looming graveyard summarizes the present-day story of war-torn Afghanistan, where the Taliban has reached the helm of affairs at an unexpectedly shocking speed. Heart-wrenching scenes of scared people falling off a plane from tens of hundreds of feet above the ground has made it even clearer. People who have seen the previous version of Taliban cannot trust it with anything. And now the Taliban, who appears to be more intelligent, aware of the PR exercises and narrative-building processes, are holding press conferences. They are trying to reassure people that these unsparing brutes have transformed into an organization of gentlemen that provides equal opportunities to all and put women first.
تاریخي مقطع کې قرار لرو چې سیاسي نظام به جوړیږي خو سیاسي جوړښت باندې او د سیاسي پروسیجر په تکمیل باندې زموږ د مشرانو لخوا جدي بحثونه روان دي او په نږدې راتلونکي کې به موږ د دې شاهدان واوسېږو چې سیاسي جوړښت منځته راسي او یو قوي اسلامي هراړخیز او افغانانو ته د منلو وړ نظام ولرو.
Their conferences are sham and their words untrue. While with the help of some dubious media houses, they have been able to put their words out in Kabul, they are on a rampage in other cities and towns. People holding their national flag and raising voices for the return of democracy in Jalalabad were met with indiscriminate firing by the Taliban. Women's resistance was quelled with severe high-handedness. Experts say this is a peek into what Taliban rule would be like in the coming days. The United Nations, which is more or less a white elephant, says it wants the Taliban to stay true to its words, not mentioning any assertive action if it doesn't do so.
I've watched part of the press conference. I think a lot of it will be we will need to see what actually happens, and I think we will need to see acts on the ground in terms of promises kept.
Meanwhile, Taliban has already embarked on its Sharia mission, issuing diktats to fall in line with its radical interpretation of Islam or meet a deadly fate. In what it promised during the shoddy peace process, which many have also accused of an orchestrated US design to mislead the world, and repeated during its so-called press conference, women will continue to have jobs in media and other sectors. However, a lot of them have already been sent off air, and others' future appears uncertain.
I think much we'll get clarity once they get in, once these guys are in officially and they have a media policy. That's when we'll know for sure. But, you know, we as in the Afghan media were seen as the enemy by the Taliban. So a little bit of, you know, animosity is sort of, can be explained. It cannot be justified, but can be explained.
And now, when all discussions seem to be centered on the Taliban and their legitimacy, the question that has still not been answered, or maybe not asked enough, is how they managed to capture the country so quickly. How Kabul fell to them without putting up a resistance. why the President Ashraf Ghani moved out without really asking his soldiers to counter Taliban run. Why has the US not been proactive enough since August 15th? And why are the Afghan representatives talking to Pakistan? Was everything planned, as being accused by several commentators, and was perfectly executed in line of the script? Was it all Washington's show? Or there has been a third party like China or Pakistan who has been making the real moves and has outmaneuvered the US in its own strategic game?
And now, when almost the entire world has decided to vacate the Afghan soil, there are a few that are conspicuously inclined towards the Taliban. China appears to be excited about legitimizing the terror group. Pakistan has always been its nurturer. Russia, the United States' diplomatic nemesis, seems to have different plans too. On the other side, countries like India, that have played a key role in nation building of Afghanistan, are evacuating its citizens despite the fact there might be something devious brewing up between China and Pakistan, who haven't been able to break into its sovereign territory through several tricks and tactics.
Hundreds of Indians based out of Kabul and other consulates in Afghanistan are being safely evacuated as Taliban's sweeping rampage has sent a shockwave around the world. And this has not just happened post 15th August when Kabul fell to the militants. New Delhi, in an anticipatory move, had already started calling back its citizens in wake of deteriorating situation in the country. This week, 170 people, including the Indian ambassador to Afghanistan, were evacuated amidst growing threats of the insurgent group targeting the diplomat missions in the country.
You cannot imagine how great it is to be back home. I tell you, after 2 weeks of very intense work, very complicated situation, having to take decisions and work in conditions that were very unusual. I'm very happy, and I think the whole mission is very happy that it's finally over.
Several Indians are still stranded in the country, but New Delhi has assured all of them that they would be brought back under all circumstances. The current situation in Afghanistan is particularly different for India, as there are many external forces and proxies that have been trying to sabotage Indian endeavours in Afghanistan. India has invested millions of dollars in development projects across Afghanistan, and that has improved the bilateral relations between two nations significantly over the years. Experts say Pakistan and China, who have not been able to affect Indian position despite their collaborated effort, would want to sway Taliban in their favour to counter India. They both have also hinted at recognizing the state of Taliban. And it might become a three-pronged war for India in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, where the other two have already been trying to barge in. Pakistan can also use its leverage on the Afghan leadership that has in contact with Islamabad ever since the Taliban have captured the country.
در این مرحله توقع ما از دولت پاکستان ای بود تا از نفوذ خود بالای تحریک طالبان استفاده کنند، جلب خشونت، جلب خونریزی، جلب تشدد علیه زنان افغانستان، کودکان افغانستان و مردم افغانستان را بگیرند.
Meanwhile, a number of Afghan students from different colleges and universities across India said they were unable to focus on their academics because they were worried for their families and loved ones after the Taliban seized Kabul. India is considering providing refuge to the Afghan nationals but has not come out with any robust framework as yet. Minorities, however, who are at the risk of being targeted by the Islamist group already, have a law in place to seek refuge. Indian position in United Nations too remains unambiguous, where it has reiterated that terrorists are terrorists no matter where they come from or how they operate.
Moving on. While Pakistan's diabolical agenda vis-a-vis its eastern and western neighbours is a well-established fact, it has been brazenly vicious in its dealings with the people of Sindh and Balochistan. Unequal opportunities, state-backed discrimination and barbarity in return for the demand for the right has been the story of these two provinces. Recently, scores of Sindhis and Balochs gathered in front of the British Parliament in London to highlight the deteriorating human rights situation. They urged the British authorities and the international community to intervene into the issue, which they say is gradually snowballing into a massive humanitarian crisis.
Balochs and Sindhis, the two ethnic communities that have been fighting for their rights for the past several decades, haven't secured an iota more, whether it is the fundamental rights or the access to their own resources, ever since they became a part of Pakistan. All they have witnessed in these years is a gradual and forceful takeover of their resources by Pakistan. Their political resistance has been met with severe high-handedness and an even rapid plundering of what they had. Most of the political leaders who fled Islamabad's witch hunt and oppression have been raising their voices from different international platforms, including that of UN forums and other prominent nations. One such protest was recently held in London to highlight Pakistan's growing barbarity in these regions. Sindhis and Balochs denounced Pakistan's Independence Day as Black Day. And while narrating the horrors being meted out on them, they accused Pakistan of carrying out a systematic genocide in these regions.
There is human rights abuses are going on, there is genocide going on, cultural genocide going on in Sindh, and actual genocide is going on in Balochistan. There is hundreds and thousands of people have been disappeared by Pakistan, and Pakistan is still supporting Talibanization. Pakistan is still supporting terrorism.
They have long been requesting the international community to take notice of their peaceful struggle and intervene in order to stop Pakistani atrocities. Little has been heard. Pakistan, on the other side, has launched absolute barbarism in order to achieve its materialistic agendas. People have either been intimidated, implicated on trumped-up charges, or outrightly killed. Tens of thousands of them have been picked in broad daylight. No one knows about their whereabouts. This gathered lot, however, says it is not ready to back down, and their fight will continue until all of their brethren are released and their rights are respectfully accorded to them.
On this day in 1947, they have created a mess to the world. They have created a country which is responsible for the killings of thousands of Baloch, which is responsible for the international terrorism, the state which is behind funding, supporting and providing safe haven to the terrorists. So today, the main objective of this protest is that the Baloch, the Sindhi and the other oppressed nations are not part of the Pakistan. We, the oppressed people, believe that this day is a black day, especially for us, the Baloch people. We have never been part of Pakistan. Our land was taken forcefully, and then our people have faced worst form of genocide.
Activists also say that there has been a sharp rise in human rights violations in Balochistan since the launch of the multi-billion China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC. They say it has brought only death and destruction, contrary to the promises of economic opportunities, employment and prosperity they were CPEC is a network of roads, railways and energy projects linking China's Xinjiang to Balochistan's Gwadar port. They accuse Pakistani security forces of having been given a free hand to eliminate voices against the illegal project. The Chinese government has spent nearly $70 billion on the project, and experts say there are no chances it is reconsidering its ambitions. So, it is only the Baloch plight that is going to extend if international powers do not come to their rescue.
And now in our section of Asia this week, the stories from across the continent that hit the headlines this week.
In the wake of coronavirus pandemic, the culture of remote work has become common in Japan. But sometimes when the option of working at home is not available, people are compelled to use public facility or places like restaurant and cafe for work. This, however, is a problem as restaurants and cafes lack privacy. The solution to this problem is station work, the ultra-small offices that are located inside train station and can be booked online, as well as opened with a code scanner that is sent to your smartphone and can be used directly if vacant.
コロナウイルスの拡大でウェブ会議がすごく広がってます。ですので、ニーズとしては中でテレビ会議ができるというようなニーズがすごくお客様のニーズを捉えています。であとは中のネット環境ですとか空調も効いた環境になっているので、暑かったり寒かったりしても中で落ち着いた環境で快適な環境で仕事ができるようになっております。
The booth is soundproof and has enough space for one person to work. A computer can be placed on a small table and could be connected to the internet. There is also an air cleaner and sanitizer as a precaution against coronavirus. These booths were designed before the corona pandemic for the use of businessmen and corporate employees who may suddenly need to use the internet or charge their smartphone or computer or make urgent call while traveling by train. However, in light of corona pandemic, its use has increased significantly. Restaurants in Japan are facing difficulties due to the coronavirus pandemic. Emerging as a solution to this, the idea of in-home chef is becoming popular. Under it, professional chefs cook at home and people enjoy restaurant quality meals. After preparing the meal, chef explains each dish. This way, it is possible to accommodate each household's various requirements, such as making special prepared meal for people receiving nursing care with special dietary restriction.
前はもう本当にホテルだったりとかお店だったりとかでお客様がいらしていただくっていう僕の看板だったりとかお料理の看板にお客様がいらしてくれるっていう状況だったんですけれど、今はもう本当に各ご家庭にそれぞれ一つずつのお客様のニーズに合わせていくっていうのもまるで全然違いますし、キッチンも全然違いますし。
Due to COVID-19 situation in the country, restaurants in some areas in Japan are asked to shorten their business hours, so more chefs are accepting the idea of taking their professional skill to customers' home. India will launch a $1.35 trillion national infrastructure plan that will help generate jobs and boost the economy, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced on the occasion of India's 75th Independence Day. The program will be called Gati Shakti and will help boost the productivity of industries, Modi said during his speech during celebrations in the capital. India achieved its independence from the colonial British rule on August 15, 1947, ending more than 200 years of rule. But celebrations to mark independence are tinged with sadness because they also recall the bloody partition from Pakistan in which hundreds of thousands died.
Being an agrarian society, India celebrates a number of harvest festivals that form an integral part of the country's cultural legacy, and over the centuries they have evolved in various forms. Onam, that marks the commemoration of Vamana form of Lord Vishnu, is the biggest harvest festival in southern state of Kerala and is observed with much enthusiasm.
Flowers have filled the air with its fragrance and markets are bustling with people in Kerala as the state is observing its 10-day-long Onam festival. Celebrated at the beginning of Chingam, the first month of the Malayalam calendar, the festival marks the annual homecoming of King Mahabali, who is believed to come from the netherworld to check on his citizens. It is said that the state witnessed golden period under King Mahabali. As the idea is to welcome the beloved King Mahabali, a traditional flower carpet named Pookalam is placed in the doorway of every home. Several traditional dishes are also prepared on the occasion. This year, a local resident of Trivandrum named Rafiq prepared over 100 delicacies of jackfruit, ranging from payasam to pickles to jams to cakes.
It's a common one, but we never thought we can make so many different dishes. We used to make only the traditional ones, but from here I learned that we can also try to make so many different dishes out of this jackfruit. And I think they used not only the ripe jackfruit, they used the green one also to make different dishes. It's really very interesting.
On the sidelines of Onam, handloom expos were also organized in various cities of Kerala to help weavers in lifting their socio-economic status. Usually, Onam is the busiest time on the calendar for the handloom weavers of the state, and they start their preparations 4 months in advance. This year, to beat the pandemic blues, weavers and manufacturers have experimented a lot with designs. Apart from the traditional white and gold, they have also included screen-printed and embroidered designs.
This exhibition is an exposure for them to sell their products. And actually, we had a similar exhibition in the last March, at the height of the COVID season. And that helped them a lot because they did have absolutely zero sales at that time. But because of our exhibition, they could have some sales. Many had good sales, and that was what prompted us to do a similar exhibition this time during the Onam season. So we didn't expect that some relaxations will come in the Onam seasons. In spite of that, we've planned this exhibition to help them. We first planned a mobile exhibition, but since all the restrictions have been removed for conducting a physical exhibition, we did this physical exhibition.
Onam is also considered as the biggest shopping festival in urban areas such as Kochi and Trivandrum, as most of the shops give mega discounts during this time. It brings together a multitude of colors and flavors from across God's own country, and the celebrations reach their apex on the auspicious day of Onam, which is the most important day of the festival.
Onam is believed to have originated from Vamana Murthy temple in Kochi's Thrikkara area and then spread across the state. With that, we come to the end of this week's episode. See you next week. Goodbye and take care.